Hello, it's 9 p.m. in RTD. It's time to English New Edition. For tonight headlines, we have the closing of the National Identity Week. For the international scene, Macky Sall calls for help against terrorism in Africa. Welcome to our newsroom. The Prime Minister, His Excellency Abdulkader Kamil Mohammed, received at the end of the day the courtesy visit of the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs and Parliamentary Affairs of the Republic of India, Mr. Muraked Haram. The Minister of State was accompanied by a strong delegation, including the head of the WANA division, Dr. Pradeep, and senior officials. The Minister of State thanked the Prime Minister for his availability and explained the reason for his visit to Djibouti. He emphasized that he met with the senior officials of the country, including the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, where he had a fruitful meeting with the head of the Djiboutian diplomacy. The Prime Minister thanked the Minister of State for his visit to Djibouti and reviewed with him the ways and means to further deepen the relations between Djibouti and New Delhi for decades, ancestral and friendly relations in more than one way. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, received this morning the visit of the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs of India, His Excellency Muralid Hara, on an official visit. Muralid Hara on official visit to Djibouti, the minister welcomed the Indian ministers and the accompanying delegation. The discussions focused on the relations between Djibouti and India, linked by an excellent cooperation, and the Indian ministers thanked the head of the Djiboutian diplomacy for his welcome and his availability. The discussions expanded the opportunities of development of common interest between the two parties. The two parties, India and Djibouti, reaffirmed the common will to strengthen their relations in many files. Within the framework of the official visit of the Minister of State for External Affairs of India, Mr. Muralid Hara was received for a visit this Thursday, September 22, 2022, by His Excellency Mariam Hammadou Ali, Minister of Delegate in charges of Digital Economy and Innovations, in the company of the Director General, Mr. Kennedy Abdurrahman Yusuf, of the Mahatma Gandhi Leadership and Entrepreneurship Center, for a visit of the center. This visit of the CLE was all the more important because the center is one of the structural symbols of Djibouti-India relationship and was born from a support of India to the efforts of Djibouti for the establishment of an institution that will support and stimulate entrepreneurship. During this high-level visit, the Minister Mariam Hammadou Ali and her counterpart discussed the excellent relations between India and Djibouti and reaffirmed the common will to promote the relationship of the friendship and cooperation between the two countries. Following this, the Director General of the Center has, during a retrospective presentation, illustrated the efforts and impact of the Center in supporting young entrepreneurs, supporting small medium enterprises, and developing a more advanced entrepreneurial ecosystem in Djibouti. Prime Minister, His Excellency Abdulkader Kamil Mohammed, received this morning the Regional Director of the Near East, North Africa and Europe divisions of the International Fund for Agricultural Development, Ms. Dina Saleh, on a working visit to Djibouti. The discussions focused on the project in which IFAD intervenes particularly in the fight against poverty and hunger in rural areas. Indeed, the objective of IFAD in Djibouti is to improve resilience to climate change and the conditions of rural households in a sustainable manner. IFAD supports agricultural development projects in Djibouti. Prime Minister Abdulkader Kamil Mohammed thanked the International Fund, the directors of the International Fund for Agricultural Development for its unconditional assistance and support. The meeting was attended by the Minister of Agriculture, Mohammed Ahmed Awale, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Ibrahim Elmi, the Director of the Prime Minister's Office, Yusuf Aulet Farah, the Head of the Prime Minister's Office, Mr. Ali Silla Abdallah, and the Director of Project at the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Baragoita Said. At the end of the meeting, the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed elevated Ms. Dina Salah to the rank of the Knight in the National Order of June 27, and Ms. Rasha, head of the IFAD offices in Djibouti, to the rank of Knight in the National Order of June 27. For her part, the regional director of the Near East, North Africa, and Europe divisions of the International Fund for Agricultural, Ms. Dina Salah, said for her part, first of all, I would like to express my thanks to the Djibouti government for this medal, which is very dear to my heart. For me, this is my first visit to Djibouti, and during which I visited some of the interior regions such as Tajura, Obok, and Dikil. I took this opportunity to also thank the government of Djibouti and its representatives for the successful 36 years of partnership with the International Fund for Agricultural Development. There are indeed climatic and economic challenges, but at the same time, we have many opportunities to overcome them through the use of modern technology and renewable energy to achieve agricultural development and improve the conditions of the rural population, help them get water, and add value to products. Prime Minister His Excellency Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed has elevated this morning the French Ambassador Arnaud Guillois to the end of his mission of Commanders of the National Order of June 27. This decoration ceremony took place in the presence of the Secretary General of the Prime Minister's Office, Mr. Naguib Abdallah Kamil. These decorations of the ambassador reflects the tireless efforts of the French diplomat in favor of strengthening the secular ties between France and Djibouti. Ambassador Arnaud Guillois said he was honored to receive such recognitions from the Republic of Djibouti. Ambassador Guillois will continue to represent his country to the Republic of Madagascar. Under the high patronage of the Prime Minister, the Minister of Interior in collaboration with the Minister of Communication in charge of Post Telecommunication has closed the National Week of Identity this morning at the People's Palace under a colorful ceremony. This big ceremony, which is in the images of the event. Gadri, the Minister of Interior Said Nur Hassan, the Minister of Communication Radwan Abdullahi Bahdoun, the Minister of Muslim Affairs and Waqf Mumin Hassan Barre, the Minister of Youth and Culture Hibo Mumin Assowe, the Secretary of State in charge of Investment and Private Sector Development Safiya Mohammed Ali Gadile, the Mayor of Djibouti Said Dawood Mohammed, the Director General of the Population and Family Mr. Ahmed Omar Jama, the Director General of ANSI, Mr. Mustafa Muhammad Ismail, but also the parliamentarian and representatives of the concerned institution. The officials were able to visit the stands set up on this occasion by the partners such as ANSI, D-Money, WAFI, but also the Directorate of Population and Family with mobile equipment for instant printing of biometric cards. The officials were able to discover several varieties of products offered by the partners. This ceremony was placed under the digital transformation underway in the Republic of Djibouti under the leadership of the Head of State, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, for a country that has fully biometric administrative document to develop the direct exchange of data between administrations under the program of official documents to meet especially the expectations of users to simplify access to the services of requesting administrative documents, civil studies, and finally, quickly address their grievance. During this week, the Directorate General of Population and Family organized an awareness caravan on the importance of identity, a caravan that crisscrossed the capital of and the 5 regions of interior. The ultimate goal of the DGPF and its staff was to raise awareness about the national identification number. It is underlined that the National Identity Week was celebrated for the first time in Djibouti. The ceremony is closed by a beautiful family photo. For his part, the General Director of ANSI, Mustafa Muhammad Ismail, said in his speech the call to the creation of an observance day dedicated to identity was launched by ID4 Africa. The call was enthusiastically received by the global identity and development community, who saw the initiative as a rallying cry to keep the importance of the sustainable development goals in mind for countries to remain focused on achieving it. For his part, the General Director of Population, Mr. Ahmed Umar Jama, has indicated in this year's event, whose theme is Everyone's Deserves an Identity. Identity Deserves Day is primarily an awareness-raising event launched by government authorities in all countries around the world to officially recognize September 16 as Identity Day. The mayor of Djibouti City, Said Dawood Mohammed, has indicated that the choice of September 16 is highly symbolic. It is in commemoration of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which calls for the provisions of legal identity for all by 2013, including through birth registration. At the end, the Minister of Interior, Said Nuh Hassan, has indicated that the commemorative ceremony of the International Day of Identity, called ID Day, reminds us of the need for an identity for all in order to make people visible while allowing them to exercise their civic rights as well as their social and financial inclusion. In an effort to address the issue of identity, the Republic of Djibouti has equipped itself with the legal arsenals with the establishment of national registers of natural persons and establishment of a national identification number through law number 1639 EN 198L for the establishment of the national identification number, which is promulgated on January. The Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmed Robli Abdullah, chaired this morning an important meeting on the multifaceted fight against malaria in the capital. In addition to the Deputy Mayor of Djibouti, Ms. Fatuma Mohamed Kamil, the meeting will have mobilized the President of the three communes of the capital and the main actors of the civil society in order to engage discussions around the multiple problems of malaria, as well as the means of fight against the proliferation of mosquitoes, vectors of disease. In his speech, the minister emphasized the need for a coordinated fight involving all sectoral partners in order to curb the specter of malaria in our country. The participant first followed a brief presentation on the preventive and creative means, as well as the various multiform actions deployed by the Department of Health in vector control. To this end, a multi-sectoral roadmap was presented to effectively fight the endemic scourge of malaria. For his part, the Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmed Robli Abdullah, recalled that his department has already distributed mass insecticide treated mosquito nets to all the population, and that the time was very propitious to intensify our actions and prevent upstreams any proliferations of mosquito even before the arrivals of the cool season. On Wednesday, September 21, a graduation ceremony of the training on digital innovations and cross-border e-commerce was held at the Red Sea International Exhibition Center. The ceremony was attended by the Minister of Digital Economy and Innovation, Ms. Mariam Mohamed Ali, the President of the Ports and Free Zone Authority of Djibouti, Abu Bakr Umar Hadi, the Ambassador of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Mr. Berhanus Keye, and the Chief Representative in Africa, Djibouti, Togo, China Merchant Group, Mr. Julian Liu, The training, which lasted 7 days, focused on China, Africa, digital economy, cross-borders, e-commerce, and business management and operation. Thus, each group showed its cutting-edge innovation to the high personalities present at the venue, and then afterwards, the 26 graduates who successfully completed the training received their certificates, which were handed over to them by the authorities present at the end. An agreement was signed between CLE and RSG for future cooperation and mutual project. It is worth mentioning that this year is the 43th year of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Djibouti and China. The cooperation between our two countries has extended from infrastructure, public buildings, and food to more abundant files such as ports, construction, transit, trade, and education of international students.
I would like to express my heartiest congratulations to the 26 graduates who have successfully completed the content-rich program. From this training program, we know that you are all young, brave, with pioneering ideas and entrepreneurial potential. In these 7 days, you have learned so much knowledge about the history and the typical models of Sino-African digital economy, about cross-border e-commerce and enterprise management and operation. Most importantly, I hope this session will enhance your confidence and enthusiasm for starting your own businesses. This training session is also followed by other activities that will be held in the next few months, such as several resource matchmaking meetings and cultural courses, etc.
In her speech, the Minister of Digital Economy, Ms. Mariam Mohamedou Ali, congratulated the graduates for completing this course. So today's graduation ceremony marks the success of the first stage of the CME and our initiative with the support of China Merchant Foundation. We hope that more and more young African entrepreneurs will be able to gain new knowledge, expand their horizons, make new friends, develop new skills, start their own businesses, and ultimately contribute to the development of the whole society. Within the framework of price control operation through the national territory to enforce the prices set by the ministry, the agents of controllers of the Ministry of Commerce and Tourism have conducted unannounced control operations in the Barwako district. The main objective of this operation is to enforce the prices approved by the Ministry of Commerce and Tourism. To this end, some sales outlets in violations have been summoned to present themselves to the ministry. The controllers says the traders of the place to remind them the obligations of deliveries of invoice for any commercial transaction. The Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, had a long discussions with the military authorities, the Chief of the Inter-Army Regiment of Obok, Lieutenant Colonel Ilyas Omar Yusuf, as well as the political authority of the region, the Deputy of the Prefect of Obok, Mr. Ali Maki, as well as the Vice President of the Regional Council, Mr. Ahmed Ali. On this contact, the chief of the general staff of the armed forces inquired about the security situation in the northern region, urged the chief of the general staff of the armed forces to maintain the security of the area. On the same day, as part of his tour in the interior region, as part of his towers in the interior region, the chief of the general staff of the armed forces, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, visited the inter-army regiment of Tajara on Tuesday, September 22, 2022. Upon his arrival, the chief of the general staff of the armed forces was welcomed by the chief of staff, Colonel Major Ali Shahin Dawood, at the regiment's airfield. The towers was attended by the chief brigadier defense General Tahir Ali Muhammad, Colonel Wahib Musa Khalil, Commander of the Air Force, Colonel Musa Muhammad Musa, Director General of the Administration and Finance, Lieutenant Colonel Yunus Ilmi Wais, Director of Human Resources. During the towers, the Chief of Staff, accompanied by his delegations, meet with military officials to inquire about the situations on the ground. At the same time, the Chief of Staff meet the Prefect of the region, Hassan Dabel Ahmed, as well as the President of the Regional Council, Umar Hussein Umar. Early in the day of September 22, 2022, the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, had a long discussions with the military authorities. Accompanied by his delegation, went to Dekhil as part of a towers in the Corps of Interior. On this tower, the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces was accompanied by Brigadier General Tahir Ali Muhammad, Colonel Wahib Musa Khanile, Colonel Musa Muhammad Musa, Director General of Administration and Finance, Lieutenant Colonel Yunus Ilmi, Director of Human Resources. Upon descent from the Dolphin helicopters, the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces was welcomed by the newly elected Chief of Staff of the regiment, Colonel Ibrahim Ali Farah. The regiment Chief of Staff was accompanied by the Deputy Prefect Yusuf Ali of the regions and the President of the Regional Council. The Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, inquired about the situations on the ground in the areas devolved to the military authorities of the region. The Al-Rahma complex of the township of Balbala to host this morning, Tuesday, September 20, 2022, official launch of the second editions of the National Caravan of Citizenship Awareness organized by the Tireless Movement of Youth One and Indivisible, in collaboration with the City Council of Djibouti under the theme Role and Responsibility of Youth in the Entrenchment of Civic Values, Patriotic and Civic for the Influence and Development of the country. More than 200 young people of all ages took part in this great event. The works of this day were marked by sensitizations and exchanges debate on different themes of the caravan. The event took place in the presence of the President of Youth Movement One and Indivisible, Mr. Ahmed Mogola, the President of the Commune of Balbala, Muhammad Hassan, the Vice President in charge of the coordination, Mr. Muhammad Ali, and the Vice President of the Commune of Balbala, Suleiman Ali, elected officials and parliamentarians. This national caravan aims to raise awareness among youth on their role and responsibility in the promotion and practice of civic values, patriotic and civic, in their respective environments to consolidate peace, living together, and social cohesion in our country. The ceremony ended with the distribution of school kits to the poorest children of the town of Balbala and the taking of for families in a great atmosphere. In his speech, the president of the One and Indivisible Association Youth Movement, Mr. Ahmed Mogola, reminded the youth that adopting a responsible civic behavior and respecting the values of our country will make us young people who contribute to the maintenance of peace and the development of our country alongside our elders while embracing the motto of our country. Following the degradation and act of vandalism of several manholes of water supply pipe from Ethiopia passing near to National Road 1 and National Road 5, the General Management of ONIAD has seized the National Gendarmerie to determine the perpetrators of this act. Indeed, the water supply pipe have several points in which were installed manholes built in reinforced concrete to protect the valleys. The degradations of these manholes caused a significant water leak on the entire networks, which caused disruptions on the water supply in the capital. Faced with this situation, the gendarmes of several units of gendarmerie have coordinated their efforts to put an end to this plague. On September 2022, in the Ali Sabih Brigade intercepted 8 truck drivers who had damaged the road in the locality of Dudubala in order to illegally obtain water. They were taken into the custodies and will be brought to justice at the end of the investigations. It is to be reminded that the degradations of the water manholes and the disruptions of the water supply network is one of the causes of the situation of water insufficiency suffered by several sectors of the capital, so increased vigilance should be required. And for the international scene, UN Macky Sall calls for help against terrorism in Africa. The United Nations General Assembly, Macky Sall, President of Senegal and current Chairman of African Union, addressed several issues, including peace, the war in Ukraine, foreign sanctions against Zimbabwe, but with a focus on terrorism. Listen to Kasser Ali for more detail.
Assembly, Macky Sall, President of Senegal and current Chairman of the African Union, addressed several issues including peace, the war in Ukraine, foreign sanctions against Zimbabwe, but focusing on terrorism. During this speech at the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly on Thursday, President Macky Sall invited the United Nations Security Council to become more involved in the fight against terrorism in Africa. Terrorism, which is gaining ground on the continent, is not only an African affair, it is a global threat that falls within the primary competence of the Security Council, a guarantor of the collective security mechanism under the Charter of the United Nations, said the current chairman of the African Union. He also reiterated the request to grant a seat to the African Union within the G20 so that Africa is finally represented on the world stage. the United Nations General Assembly, the annual gathering of world leaders that clutters midtowns Manhattan return in person after 2 years of pandemic restrictions, with only one leader allowed to virtually attend, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us. Have a good evening.